Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch the Track podcast, presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim. And we are very happy on this day to be speaking about the album Brothers by the Black Keys, which in many ways we kind of relate to on a personal level.
We do.
You know, for ourselves.
Brothers from other mothers.
Yeah. Not unknown brothers either, like the song on the album like Unknown Brother. Like we know. So here we are.
Absolutely.
Talking about it.
Yeah, we certainly are. Well, Grim, before we get into it, we just want to remind everybody what this podcast is about. This podcast is about picking our favorite albums by our favorite bands, talking about those albums, discussing the songs on the albums, and then choosing ultimately, and sometimes sadly, what song we would have to scratch off if our disc got scratched.
Yeah, because in, life, what usually happens is, albeit a vinyl or a CD, we have found that throughout the course of life, something inevitably gets scratched, and it's a bummer. And you ask yourself, man, why did it have to be that track? What if it could be this track? And so,
this other one.
As a game that me and the dude started to play, in which we would discuss our favorite albums and say, what would you scratch if you had to scratch one?
And sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, and the podcast was born. And so here we are.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
cheers.
Well, cheers to that. And I just want to say I'm drinking. It is Cinco de Mayo. This episode will air much after Cinco de Mayo, but it's Cinco de Mayo. And so I'm drinking a glass of Mezcal Cointreau. It's a little orange bitters out of my dude glass that Grim so kindly sandblasted.
Custom sandblasted those glasses.
I don't know if it can. I don't know if it can pick up on the camera.
I'm just so glad they made it to you because, dude, I was worried about that. That was, as far as sandblasting goes, that is my art. That is the pinnacle of what I've done.
And I think this really goes with the theme of this album because that is exactly what best friends and brothers do for each other.
Yeah.
We give each other devices to consume substances.
Closer than brothers. Yeah.
Closer than brothers. All right. Into the album. The Black Keys Brothers, their 6th studio album, released May 18th, 2010, man. 2010.
Yeah. I remember hearing this album when it came out. I was in a band at the time, and the guitarist, Mr. John Auerbach, hooked me up with this album, was like, dude, you need to listen to this. And I did. So his solo will be featured in the intro music of this podcast, which I think
nice.
May not have been influenced by this album, but maybe indirectly was, like in a Pulp Fiction non-sequential kind of way.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah,
absolutely. So where were you at when this album came out? Where were you at as far as being a fan of the Black Keys? I had a bunch of their stuff. I hadn't done the deep dive into their catalog. I was familiar with some of their stuff, but I wasn't. This is the album that really kickstarted for me.
Oh, see, I had Thick Freakness, had Rubber Factory, not on vinyl, but listened to them regularly and liked them as a band. But I guess maybe wasn't expecting this. And so when I heard it, I was like, man, this is really cool. And one thing I really liked is how weird and literal the cover is, where it says, this is an album by the Black Keys. The name of this album is Brothers. It's almost awkward in the way it's presented, but there's something about that I really like.
Yeah. Well, they didn't want to do some kind of, they just wanted some kind of basic cover and everything. And
they got it.
Pat Carney's brother is the one who designed this and came up with it.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think I might have won an award or something. I don't know. Does Grammy do best covers?
I don't know, but I think they won.
They won something.
They won several Grammys for this, which
It's won several awards. It's not very late.
Yeah, one thing that I will say is in one I had read somewhere that in one of the Grammys that they won for this album, when they were given the physical Grammy award, it actually said the Black Eyed Peas instead of the Black Keys. And dude,
That makes sense.
I'm sorry, like I know that via text you and I and Forrest were talking about the worst bands ever. I should have listed the Black Eyed Peas because I'm sorry, like they're just fucking terrible. And to mince that up with the Black Keys, like God, what a disgrace. What a fucking disgrace.
What the fuck is that shit?
But before we get into that, I'd really like to remind everyone, please go ahead and
Like, subscribe, and comment below. And I'm sure everyone who is huge Black Eyed Peas fans have already unsubscribed, so go ahead. Thank you for that.
If you are,
hey,
though, you would have never listened to this in the first place.
We're just speaking the truth.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, not sorry.
well, dude, so here's the thing, Grim. When this album came out, let me tell you, I listened to it a lot. Like,
me too.
Like that's just what I listened to for like a few months. It was just this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was living in Chicago at the time. And when is Lollapalooza? It's like in August, early August. So this came out in May. So it had been out for a few months. And they were playing Lollapalooza. At this point, they weren't even headliners. They were playing like the 45-minute sets. And so I specifically was like, I need to get a ticket and I need to go see them like right now. And dude, I think I paid like $80 or $90 to go down and see their 45-minute set. And I think I left like right after that. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Wow,
Because
that
that's
must
all
have been
that-
like the year that I stopped coming for that.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was the last. It was the last year I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
So it was 2010.
Because you and I saw a lot of good bands there, like prior to.
bands.
Still pissed that we missed LCD Sound System. Walked right fucking by it like a bunch of dickheads. But
Yeah.
the past.
I'm
is
sure
the
we were
past.
going to see something pretty great. Anyways, the crazy thing about this album, Grim, is it almost never happened. And why is that? It's because they almost broke up, which is pretty wild.
Yeah,
Now,
heard some stuff about that.
from what I have read,
Yeah.
a couple different things. One, tensions were high. It was about 2009, and Dan Auerbach came out with a solo album. Now, he had played the solo album for Patrick, but I don't think he mentioned to him like, hey, I'm going to put this out. And then all of a sudden he put it out and Patrick was like, dude, that ain't cool, man. And so that was not good. But then also Patrick was going through a divorce, and Dan, and this is quotes, hated her from the start and didn't want anything to do with her. And they'd been married for 2 years and together for like 7 years or 9 years. I forget what it is, but it's been together for 9. So basically the whole time the Black Keys were like coming up, Patrick was married to someone that Dan absolutely hated. God, that must have been horrible. Talk about some awkward Christmases and like,
Oh yeah,
hey, nah, not good.
yeah.
So, but there's a happy ending, and yeah, never mind. I won't even go there. But broke off the marriage, and then the two worked things out after that, and then they went and recorded the album. I mean, dude, I'm really glad they did that.
As I think probably they and most of the fans are as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's interesting because like a lot of great albums, this was recorded in a handful of places. We kind of touched on in our Monday episode the recording of Tighten Up, which was done with Danger Mouse in, I believe, Brooklyn.
I think it was New York. Yeah.
Yeah, because prior to this, I don't know if have you ever listened to the Black Rock album, dude?
I have it, and I really haven't listened to it.
Oh, you
Yeah,
should.
it's weird.
It's really pretty awesome because it's basically like they just lay down a bunch of awesome tracks, and then they get like, dude, RZA is on it, Raekwon, the Chef, just Dude, they found old tracks from Old Dirty Bastard and put it on it. So there's what's the Jim Jones, which I love because his name is Jim Jones after Jim Jones, the cult leader. But they basically just made this awesome album that was like a bunch of sweet backing tracks, and then they got MCs to hop on it and just rap over the top of it. So it was really cool. So I think in the course of making this, and I believe that was made in Brooklyn. So okay. I don't know if that puts them there to hang out with Danger Mouse or how that worked out, but it seems, at least in my mind, of not knowing or not being there to kind of coincide.
Danger Mouse produced Attack and Release.
Yes.
So
yes.
They had known. I mean, they were, and it sounds like they were like, hey, not just produce, but they like hang out. They're like friends and stuff. And so that's kind of, I mean, we can talk a little more. I mean, we talked a lot about Tighten Up on our Monday episode. We can talk a little more about that when we get to it in the tracks.
Yeah,
but
sure.
It sounds like they kind of hung out and everything, but everything else had been produced by Mark and Neil. And a lot of it was at Muscle Shoals, which was a very cool sort of story, man. Like how that just kind of came about. Right?
Yeah, because Muscle Shoals is this classic recording
Alabama
facility that kind of came into prominence when they did the song Take a Letter Maria, which is an old hit from like the 60s.
Yeah, it was like 69.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, dude, before you know it, the Stones are there. They did I think they did Brown Sugar, and they did Wild Horses there. And
now, Grim, do you remember? That's the scene in Gimme Shelter.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where they're at.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, and Keith Richards is almost like passed out in there. Yeah, just like drinking. Yeah.
Well, and they zoom in on his boot, and it's either snake skin, I think, or alligator skin or something like that, and it shows him tapping, and they're just in the studio, just kind of all listening to it. It's very cool. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, with this studio, there was a group of musicians at Muscle Shoals who kind of created this sound, right? Aside from the room itself, which has quite a sound too.
Right.
But a lot of artists went to Muscle Shoals because they said they wanted that Southern, they wanted that, and I quote, black sound. But the irony is those musicians were white. But they grew up in the South, and they were so influenced by that music that that's just kind of what came out of them. And I thought that was always a fascinating story. And so Muscle Shoals, grew in popularity, and then they went to a new building. And then there's this old building that just sat there. Nothing had been recorded in it for 30 years. It was basically a museum at this point where people would like take tours through.
Walk through it.
Yeah, and there's nothing there other than this room.
Like, hey, these guys recorded here. Cool. All right.
And I loved reading about this because they're like, yeah, so they contacted the guy who was, the caretaker or what have you, and he gave them what was, I think, written down as a really good day rate to record there.
It's like a discounted or whatever. Yeah.
But knowing that there was nothing there but a goddamn air conditioning unit, so they basically had to bring in a mixing board and everything, like the console and everything that went with it. And so then enter Mark Neal, who has all this awesome just analog equipment.
Analog shit, right?
Which I believe he helped Dan Auerbach build his own studio in Akron, which he then moved down to Nashville and has since recorded a lot of artists there. So, sorry, I'm tired of talking.
No, well, I mean, you did a hell of a job. I mean, that's a podcast. You're supposed to talk. So... but yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Is they talked to the guy, and he said, "Yeah, you can come on down, but you're gonna get the space, you're gonna get a bathroom, you're gonna get an AC unit, but you got to bring your own shit."
Yeah,
and I think that was fine, at least because he had the stuff. Now, here's the thing: what I kind of read about it too, and that was a great article that you sent me. They used I don't know how you say it, a Studer mixer.
Yes.
And is that right? And
as one of them,
said,
and a UA mixer, universal audio mixer, which I think they said was reminiscent of the actual the same style of UA mixer that was in Muscle Shoals,
like 30 years ago or whenever. Yeah. But that mixer, they said they seldom went beyond 10 tracks for that.
Yeah, and dude, that blew my fucking mind to read that, because I'm like, I guess what really got me is when they talked about how they recorded the drums. And who they cited,
crossfire, right?
Yeah,
it was
which I thought was awesome, is they basically had 3 mics. They had one like near the kick, and then they had one near the bass tom and one near the snare, and it just it picked up everything. But who they mentioned as the kind of inspiration for that mic setup for the drums, none other than Glenn Johns, who produced basically like most of the Led Zeppelin albums that you would know. And I think you could make a fair argument that they had a pretty damn good drum sound for those Led Zeppelin albums.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting, because when you listen to those recordings that were obviously done in Muscle Shoals, which is, I think they said 10 out of 15 tracks on the album.
10 to 15. Correct.
And then you listen to Tighten Up, you can hear how Danger Mouse produced it differently and probably recorded the drums like separately, which is awesome in its own right. But at the same time, you get an amazing sound recording the drums with that, like, I think you described it as a triangular crossfire. Yeah,
that was just kind of how I said it.
But it's amazing to me, because like thinking about it, I'm like, I still can't fathom how they got the drums to sound that goddamn good with 3 mics. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they said, there was one mic out front, one in the vicinity of the floor tom, and then one in front of the bass drum, slightly angled downward. Now, here's the thing: what Neil said, because of the sound of the room, I guess, that they were listening to everything in, really affected the mixes. So they mixed for the room that they were in.
Yeah, but then the control room.
Yeah, but then we'd go out and listen, out in the car, in your earbuds or whatever, and it would sound so different. And what he said was like the kick drum and the bass were just so predominant in those mixes. And that's really interesting, because if you're a producer, and we've talked about this when you're mixing, the bands that, you've been in and stuff, like you're sitting in your studio in your sound and you're hearing the sound through your monitors and you're mixing it or your headphones or whatever you're doing. Right. But the thing is, and that's great, but the majority of people don't listen to music kind of with your headphones on or with those monitors. I mean, most people got little AirPod buds or they're in their car or something like that. So it's going to sound different. And I think that was a huge shock to them for sure.
I know, but it's interesting because and it's funny because when I started listening to this album, I mean, I live in an area where I have to drive places. And so most of the time that I listen to music is in the car, right? For better or worse. And that's where I listened to this album the most, was on CD in the car.
Sure. Yep.
And I listened, and as we were doing research for this album, I had listened to it again for the first time, and I'm going to say like 6-7 years, probably.
So good, man.
And dude, to listen to it in headphones, I feel like I heard it differently, and I was like, damn, it's amazing because it is so bass and drum heavy, But at the same time, that doesn't take away from anything else. It just fucking makes it kick that much more ass.
Oh, it does.
In my opinion.
No, that's the thing that really stands out about it. So I don't know if we talked about this real quick, but I would love to know what yours is. My favorite Black Keys album is Rubber Factory. It's between this and Rubber Factory, but I think it's Rubber Factory. What's yours?
I'm going to say this one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, because I think everything after this was too produced. I feel like this was the right level of like grittiness and produced for me.
I will say the album after this, which I believe is El Camino.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah, that might have been a little overproduced. But
I don't even want to say overproduced because I can't fault them for like growing as an artist, but I know what you mean. It's like
there's a polish to it. There's a cleanliness where, and for me, when I look at, I love the kind of grittiness, and when we get into some of the songs, we'll talk about that. Some of that, just that nasty grittiness where even though it's in some of their more recent albums, I feel like it's almost like a clean grittiness. Like there's something about it.
I understand.
There's something there, man. I like the.
Well, and to get nerdy, they talked about this with how they recorded it in that article that I sent you from Sound on, I believe it was Sound on Sound, and they talked about some of that grittiness was achieved just by using this universal audio mixer because it didn't have a lot of headroom, which headroom is basically like, how do I describe
before
it?
It's going to peak? Is that right? Like,
yeah, it's basically like a kind of a range between when everything is very present and full and it peaks. So apparently this mixer didn't have a lot of headroom there. So it's like if you got everything hot, it would start to maybe like very lightly and grow in its crunch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like I
like that sound.
I love that sound.
Right?
I mean, that's like the old recordings we hear. You know, totally. I mean, that is.
It has that quality,
sound.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got a great quality to it. The sound.
And to me, that's every time I listen to this album, and even more so as I listen back to it in headphones, I was just like, God, this just has such a real sound to it.
Sure.
You know, in Auerbach's voice, and especially in Patrick Carney's drums, like it just it just fucking kicks ass. I don't know how else to say it without
it does.
Without
it thumps,
sounding
man.
crass.
It thumps with the bass too, and it's just and that's how they recorded a lot of these songs. Like typically it sounds like in their past they had recorded kind of drums, guitar. This they recorded drums, bass.
Yes,
like those. Yeah,
that was another thing I wanted to mention is, and they said that was a big driver into how everything sounded because that became the foundation of the track, and then the guitars were added, which.
Yep.
But still, the whole idea of like on a lot of these songs having 10 tracks, like because he said that he used that Studer mixer just to use it as a bus, which basically means like you take a bunch of tracks and then you dump them down into either one or two. But he dumped that shit into mono, so the drums were just like mono, and that I don't know, like I wouldn't even think about that nowadays because you don't have to do that. But to think about that and to do it and get the result that they got is unbelievable.
Sounds amazing, man.
It does.
Yeah. Well, so I, again, kind of like you, I'm trying to think, it had been a while since I'd listened to this album. And so we were going back to kind of our favorite albums. If I put on an album of theirs, I do put on Rubber Factory. I picked that up on vinyl, I don't know, months ago. Because, dude, great deal. It was like $20, man. It was fun. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Good album.
Yeah. But now that I've listened to this one, I feel like this is one I probably need to pick up, man.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
I think there is like a new remastered whatever, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully it fits on one disc, although I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either.
Shit. Rubber Factory does, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But so going back to the recording a little bit, though, they talked about sort of in the room that they were recording in. And I don't know if you have any insight to this, but he said that the kind of the floors in the main room actually had like give and flexibility. Like they kind of bounced a little bit.
Yeah,
and so that soaked up a lot of the low end is kind of what it said.
Yeah, which is weird. And I would take that as like the low end that you don't want. Okay. Right? Because there's low end that you do want and there's low end that you don't want. And depending on what instrument you're recording and how the room sounds, you may have to like EQ things differently. Because, for example, if I were to in this room record a guitar track, I'm going to put it through an EQ that says get rid of everything under 100 hertz. Because that's just like noise I don't want. However, if I'm doing a kick drum, I'm not going to do that because I want that super low end.
Okay.
But I just have this, kind of shit room in my basement that's what I do things in, where it's not Muscle Shoals. And I think that's kind of the magic of some of these spaces. And that's one thing that they talked about is like, somebody like Mark Neal could listen to old recordings and probably tell you where it was recorded, because there's a handful of studios at that time that have like this characteristic sound, and they talk about that in the article and people can hear it. There's like Watts, there's like Stax, there's Motown, there's Muscle Shoals. And there are people who can listen to these old songs and based on whether it's the echo chamber they used or the room or whatever, they could tell you where it's recorded. To me, that's incredible. Dude,
that is like the equivalent to like wine tasting, being able to tell you like what year, what grade, what varietal, what region, all that shit.
I know.
That's next level right there.
It is. It is next level. It's amazing.
So here's the deal. They had blocked off 2 weeks to record here. And before going down there, they kind of didn't know what they were going to get, right? They didn't know what they were going to show up to. They're like, we're bringing down our stuff. We're going to record in this place. Their expectations were actually rather low. They got there, started recording. Even, dude, I mean, Patrick Carney was still going through his divorce and everything. I think I read that he was like, he was kind of struggling and not really feeling it. And then I believe the first track that they recorded was Next Girl. And once he heard that and he heard the lyrics, and he just like was like, you know what? Fuck yeah. And we'll talk about that song a little bit later. But basically that kind of like snapped him out of it. It sounds like a little bit. And he was like, boom. All right, I'm into it. And dude, they spent, well, first of all, there's not a whole lot to do there, right? In that area. So they recorded 10 songs in 10 days. They had it booked for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And basically
but they got out early.
Yeah, they were able to get out early. They recorded the last track and they skated because the only thing to do there was either go to Cracker Barrel or Walmart. And from what I understand is they drank at the hotel at night. They get up in the morning, they go to Cracker Barrel, get breakfast, and then they were in the studio by 10 a.m. and they recorded. Like, dude, that's a really good 10 days. Like, I would like a 10 days like that. And I don't even record music, but man, I'd definitely tag along.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Cracker Barrel. Fucking drive to Florida from Michigan and count the goddamn Cracker Barrels you see on 75.
There's a few. Yep. Yeah. So I think one last thing before we get into the tracks.
Okay.
And at least that I have, if you want, feel free to add in because it is half your show too. It's my pleasure. But so anyways, they get done recording all the tracks. They they throw those down. Then they go into mixing. Now it sounds like when they went to mixing, they used quote unquote modern machinery to mix and master. And I wouldn't say some people or anything like that, but it would ask one person, you're going to these, you're recording everything in analog, you're going to this old place, you're worried about the wood floors and it's got this sound and this feel and everything, and then you're going to put it through this kind of digital transformation. I don't know. What do you have a thought or opinion, or what's your take on that, my friend?
Initially I would have had a thought, and I guess it would have been like, what the
fuck is that shit?
But
I feel a big fat hairy butt coming.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you listen to the final result, it doesn't sound to me like something that was just like fucked over digitally. It sounds analog and it sounds great. So I don't feel like that by doing what they did, the album was given any sort of a disservice. That's my thought.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can't disagree with that for sure. I mean, the sound to me, I love the thickness.
It's gorgeous.
Fullness,
yeah,
the drum and the bass just in your face, kind of the whole time.
I don't think it detracted from that at all.
No, I'm good with it.
So let's go to the tracks, man.
I was going to say, we got 15 tracks to get through, and we spent some good time on the production, but I hope everyone out there liked it. And if you haven't liked it, you should like it. Subscribe to our channel, and you should comment below, because we're about to get into the tracks. We're going to go through each track probably quickly, and we'll pick one that, as hard as it might be, we're going to have to scratch that. So let us know your scratch, please.
So here we go. Everlasting Light.
Oh, very interesting song. The most interesting thing that sticks out to me with this song, I mean, dude, it starts off, it's raw, kick drum, bass right there. The way he sings it, though, very Dan, very un-Black Keys, falsetto,
very
high,
undude.
But I dig it.
It works. It works very well.
That's kind of what does it for me. I think it's a good opening track. It stays consistent, right?
I agree. And as you'll hear as we go through this, there's just a lot of like soul in this, and I feel like this is it. And I feel like as you listen to it, especially knowing about the recording process, there's probably some songs, at least for me, that I could say I think this was done at Muscle Shoals. This is one of them.
Okay. There's a song a little later. I kind of want to play that game. That's a fun little game to play.
Yeah.
I wonder if they did it.
I know,
because I have an idea for maybe why they did, and maybe I had an idea for why they didn't. So as long as I read that in my notes, we'll play that game. So next song, Next Girl. Now this is the song that I think really resonated with Patrick and helped him kind of get focused on the album. But man. Dude, this song just like thumps right from the start, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
Like, holy shit. It does.
But what stands out to me that I really like is the way they use the vibrato on the guitar and the way it works with the rhythm.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But dude, and in the lyrics, I mean, the lyrics are pretty basic and straightforward. Oh, my next girl should be nothing like my ex girl.
I mean, yeah, that's something that anyone has probably thought at some point. I mean, it's
relate to.
Yeah,
that's the thing though. Yeah, that's the thing though, is like, from my perspective, you have this one, you move on to the next, and you're like, oh well, I'm gonna find those characteristics that this other one doesn't have. And it's like, okay, cool, I found those characteristics, but then maybe the next one doesn't have the characteristics that you actually liked about the other one too. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm still single. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like my Tinder here. So swipe right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, swipe right. Right. Okay. But yeah, dude, this is a good, like, kind of thumping song. Like the way it moves along. His vocals are definitely, he goes, you know, more Black Keys grittiness that we're used to kind of hearing. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that.
No, I'm with you. So let's tighten up.
Well, dude, this is the hit. Let's not beat around the bush. This is the one. And, you know, like we talked about on our Monday episode, if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out after this one. That, dude, Patrick Carney admitted, hey, the whole idea was
the
trying to make
radio
something get played on the radio. Hey, man, at least own up to it, right? Like, we want to pick a winner, and they did.
No, I agree, and I like that they have kind of whistling in it. That's interesting.
Right, dude. It's a radio friendly unit shifter. It's poppy.
Yeah.
The thing that I love. All right, here's the thing that stands out the most, and what I love, and I know you're a big fan of transitions. I love the transition in the song. It's
the transition is very good into that second part. I know what you're talking about.
It's a weird transition though, because like
I know. Oh, I know. That's one thing I was gonna say is the way the bass. It's almost like the tape is like shitting out, and it just It's almost really good.
It's almost not a smooth transition, but it's a good transition. Great. I like it.
Yeah.
I definitely like it.
So what's next? Howlin' for You?
Ooh, Howlin'. So, dude, not, you know, going away from maybe the song a little bit, this album for them definitely put them on the map with Tighten Up.
Yeah.
And their next albums have also been pretty popular and mainstream. They've gotten a lot of commercial play, video game play, movie play. It is, and even if it's not them, I've noticed in commercials and things like that where I'm like, oh, that sounds like a Black Keys kind of riff or something. Yeah. And I've definitely noticed that. So here's the thing with Howlin' for You. It appeared in NHL 11, Need for Speed, Payback, a bunch of movies, including Limitless, Moneyball, and Deadpool. The Toronto Blue Jays use it as their home run song, and the Arizona Coyotes, which used to be the Phoenix Coyotes, so I don't know if they're Arizona Coyotes now or what. Whatever. I am not up on my hockey, but that was like their goal-scoring song.
Because let's face it, hockey never would have fucking existed in Phoenix in the real world.
I know. Well, because they moved from Winnipeg, the Jets, to Solani,
where hockey would exist.
I think they're actually back up in Winnipeg and all the Jets now. I need to.
Cristo, like, dude, I'm so annoyed with the shit that hockey did. The Minnesota North Stars go to fucking Dallas. Okay,
but now we have the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, that's so cool, so awesome. But one thing I will say with Howlin' for You, I think that Howlin' for You is like, dude. If Tighten Up was the one that they wanted to make as their stadium hit, their radio hit, dude, Howlin' for You is like their sporting event stadium hit because you could get people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like almost like ESPN.
Oh, yeah, and you get that
a little different.
You know, it's like Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter. Yeah, I mean, it has similarities.
100%. Yeah. I thought of that. I'm so glad you said that, dude. Yeah. I just didn't put it in my notes. So I was like, we won't get into that. Yeah. Well, we just got into it. All right.
So she's long gone. Oh, God, I love it. I love how they use the upper guitar, and it has this tone that, like, I mean, it's a guitar.
Are you talking about the intro, the opening riff?
No. I'm talking about when he's... Oh, she's long. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it has a harmonica quality sort of about it.
That's what I said. I said when the guitar comes in later, it almost has this harmonica fuzz on it. Wow,
yes.
I'm quoting my own.
And that is
what is that? How? I don't understand. Like, dude, is it a pedal and effect?
Fuzz,
is that
man.
the guitar? Is that the guitar?
It's fuzz in a room, I think.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Question though. One of the lines, like Moses through the corn.
I don't understand that line. I never have understood it. I haven't.
I forget.
I haven't
Moses a farmer.
I don't know, but I haven't looked up in the Bible to see what it references. As far as I knew, he like fucked around with stone tablets primarily, but I don't know that he was a farmer.
He did some etching. He's an etcher. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he's very good at that. Yeah.
Real good. Real good. Yeah. So, dude, Catholic school failed us miserably. So.
Oh, yeah. Failed a lot of people.
All right. Black Mud. Instrumental track. Dude, nominated for a Grammy.
Dude, it should be like I was one thing I want to say about Black Mud is number one, it is actually one of my favorite songs on this album. I just love they got the Farfisa organ in it that did it. You know, I which I love that because to me that Farfisa sound is unmistakable. But
there's a lot of layers. There's a lot going on. Which
there is.
You would want probably an instrumental.
If I was doing a soundtrack for a movie, I would put the song in it. Like if it was the right movie. To me, this is a song for a movie soundtrack. It's fucking awesome. Like it's an awesome song.
If I was in charge, and I am,
yeah.
If we could change it in the next 5 minutes,
I think it would go a little something like this.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I'm curious, and here's a little trivia question. Do the Black Keys have another instrumental song? I don't know that off the top of my head.
I don't either without
Maybe
looking into it.
Someone out there knows.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious. Is there another instrumental song by the Black Keys? I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Track number 7. The only one. Now.
Yeah, and what stands out to me is I think they're using like a mellotron on this to get some of those string sounds. I think.
Okay, because this song has a real kind of eerie feeling.
I know, and I like that about it.
There's a few songs, I think, on the remaining tracks of the album that do have this sort of eerie, I don't know if it go full dark, but eerie feeling, a little uneasy feeling. Mm-hmm. And yeah, again, I think his vocals here are a little non-traditional Black Keys, where he does go a little more falsetto and he sings it kind of very, I guess, sweetly.
Yeah. But I think that's cool because I think it kind of contrasts the eeriness of like the use of the mellotron strings with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, the next song I'm gonna say is probably my favorite on the album.
Is that just because the harpsichord's in it, or what?
Dude, yes. It's like it's got a fucking pirate theme.
Kinda. Oh, okay, all right.
Dude. Oh, I love it. This
has been it's been one of my favorites too, because I just love. I mean, I love the harpsichord, but I love his lyrics. Dude, my gears, they grind.
I know.
I feel like they're gonna grind away. I mean, dude,
and they got those like these big like expanding sounds in the background that kind of just grow, and it's dude.
Oh, dude,
awesome song.
Really good song.
Pirate rap, dude.
Track number 9. Okay, so I got one for you here, Graham.
10 Cent
Pistol. So what I kind of like about it, I like a lot of things about it. It's one of my favorites on the song. But
me too.
Kind of tells a story, and in a strange way. And I'm not talking necessarily about maybe from a musical perspective. I feel like this is their Bungalow Bill or Rocky Raccoon, because it tells story. Kind of, you know what I mean?
No,
and it has that sort of Wild West, like down south feel to it. I feel like it's their Bungalow Bill or Rocky, maybe a little more Rocky Raccoon than Bungalow Bill, but yeah, it's got that feel.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that, and I think it's a good. I don't know. It's like a good soul song. I don't know how else to say it.
Dude, it sounds old.
Yeah, it does
for some reason, and I will say, and this is just from probably more of a guy's perspective, but the words that have always stood out to me is "There's nothing worse in this world than payback from a jealous girl."
Yep.
Ooh, every man's nightmare.
Yep. Sinister Kid, man.
Ooh,
And I love, to me, this is another one that I don't know, but in my mind, it had to be done at Muscle Shoals because, dude, just the fucking bass and drums are so thick on it.
Right. Yeah. To me, this is a little bit of a different, interesting song. It doesn't have the same kind of rhythm that a lot of the other songs have.
Yeah.
It's a little different, kind of fun in a way, maybe in its sound.
I agree.
But it is different. It has some sections that are kind of stripped down.
But I think that's what's cool about it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Now, I think there is a solo, or there is the solo. Does he play that with the slide on this? Because he plays slide a lot on some of the earlier albums, but it sounded like that's what he did here on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. The Go-Getter.
Dude, the main thing that stands out to me is just the fucking fuzz bass.
The fuzz of bass.
Because
oh my God.
You don't hear the bass until it comes in and it's like, I mean, it's so fuzzy. It's just beautiful.
Now I feel like, though, when I mentioned earlier that when they recorded a lot of these tracks, I wonder, this is not the song that I had in mind that I was going to ask you about if they recorded at Muscle Shoals, but they recorded the drums and the bass together. I feel like the bass riffs in here are a little fewer and far between. So I'm curious, maybe this is one of the songs they didn't record there, or they didn't record drums and bass together on this. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. They may have, because what I read was that for most of the bass tracks, they just used like a shitty old DI box, which means that the bass would have just come in on a line so that it wouldn't have been out in the room polluting the drum mix. Yeah, right, no bleed, basically.
Well, so if it bleeds, we can kill it.
It's possible. I think if there's one that's on the list for ones that are questionable as to whether it was or wasn't, this would be one of them.
Actually, now that I look further in my notes, I think this is the one I was going to ask you about, because the drums in this one, they sound really stripped down. They sound kind of thin, and maybe
they don't sound like that in the other ones.
No, they don't, and that's why I was thinking maybe they didn't do this one there.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
All right. Well,
I wasn't there. I've never done this before.
Patrick a ring and just be like, Patrick, what's up? Or maybe Mark Neal or Dan. Just get him on speed dial. Bring him in. Someday we're gonna be able to do that.
Yeah.
But
in the meantime, we'll talk about I'm not the one.
Because I'm not. We're not yet, anyways.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, so this song starts off with like, I don't know, it's kind of like a keyboard, or what is that? It's like, it's kind of like,
is that the one with the Wurlitzer piano? There was maybe one that I think there's the
I was
Wurlitzer
asking, I was going to say, is that a Wurlitzer or a Rhodes or like,
no,
what
it's,
is it?
It's definitely a Wurlitzer, because the Wurlitzer has like this high end bit, and it has this presence in the high end that the Rhodes doesn't have. And this is the one I think I put in my notes that was definitely they did on a Wurlitzer.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I heard that and I was like, shit, man. Is it the Rhodes? Is it the Wurlitzer? I'm trying to think what I like ran through the ones that I
know
dude, really
a nerd like me who has literally both of them behind me, like I would know.
You would know. And if you don't know, get the
now
video.
You know.
Now you know. All right.
Unknown
13.
Brother.
All right. Unknown Brother. We have talked about this song in the past because the lyrics are a little like I can't fully make sense of them. It seems to be a sentimental song. It seems to be about someone who was lost. It sounds like, I know. You hear Unknown Brother, but then you hear it and it's like, what does he say? He says big brother a couple times. And then he says, your life was joy, your mama's only boy. And it's so I don't fully get it. I know. Fully understand.
Like, does he have an actual connection to this person or not? It is kind of the question. And I don't know.
Sounds like they're an older person.
I know.
That died
but like he feels this connection to them, which is why I find this song really interesting.
Yeah. And it is one of my favorite songs on the album. I really, really like it. I like that, they did kind of slow it down.
Yeah.
And there's just something very emotional about it that
there is. And I like the fact that it's Unknown Brother and the album is Brothers. Like there's a connection to the album that I think is really good there.
The brotherly connection, exactly. So
yeah.
Track number 14, Grim. Now this is a cover, dude. Like that's kind of interesting.
I did not know that, but
I did not know it until I did my homework, Larry.
One thing, Larry, that I really liked was, again, just the fucking fuzz bass, man.
Get that buzz.
So nice.
You can never get enough of it, really. So, One thing I'll say, though, check this out. So, here's the thing. It is a cover of a Jerry Butler song, which was written by Gamble and Huff. I didn't know that before that until I did my research, but it did. But it's also been covered by other people, including Rod Stewart. Did not know that either. But it does, when you listen to it, it sounds kind of like this throwback song. It has
a classic soul song, man.
An older soul feel to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when I listen to it, and you listen to that little beginning intro, and you hear kind of the bells a little bit.
Yeah.
Dude, it reminded me, I don't know if you know these guys, the Delphonics. You ever listen to Delphonics?
Yeah.
Dude, the Delphonics. So I know them from the movie Jackie Brown, awesome Quentin Tarantino movie, and the soundtrack. And they specifically talk about them and reference them in the movie. But there's the song, it's called Didn't I? And then in parentheses, Blow Your Mind This Time. There's just this like little intro and it has these bells in it. And as soon as I heard that, like my ears perked up. I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like that. Full transparency though, I kind of went back and listened to both of them at the same time. And it didn't sound like too similar, but it did remind me of that enough to make me think of it.
Enough of it to remind you of it. I mean,
there's something there.
Worth something.
It's something, right?
Yeah.
All right, Grim. Last track.
These
days.
Not to be confused with These Days by Nico.
No, definitely not that. Yeah.
Nico. Song's the same name.
This is This is a very slow, chill song.
Yeah.
And
interesting. It makes sense to end the album, but yeah,
it does. And part of me is like, gosh, I guess if you're going to have the slowest song on the album, is this where you're going to put it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. It's interesting because
just kind of ended on a.
They do have, I feel like, sort of one of these per album. So when I listen to Rubber Factory, the song The Lengths, and then listen to Attack and Release, the song Things Aren't Like They Used to Be. They do have kind of, they'll pick one song to really slow it down, slow it down. And that just happens to be this one. It happens to be the last track on the album. But yeah, it's an interesting song. The lyrics that I wrote down is like, watch what you say. The devil is listening.
Yeah.
He's got ears that you wouldn't believe. And your brother, again, another brother, and brother, once you go to him, it's your soul you can never, never, never retrieve. So,
okay,
lots of brother references there, my friend.
Oh yeah, lots. So, with all that in mind, what is your favorite?
Ooh, oh man, shit! I didn't think about this one.
Yeah. That's what you need to. It's not only what would you scratch. What is your favorite?
So I'm going to say what my favorite is for probably a reason I've never really said what my favorite is before. So what I'm going to say my favorite is Tighten Up. And the reason I'm going to say Tighten Up is because before this, I'd like known of the Black Keys. I had heard the Black Keys.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard Tighten Up, I don't know if I mean, there was still kind of like radio back then, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'd heard that song and I was like, wow, this is a good song. And then I was like, oh, that's the Black Keys. Oh, cool. So I'm going to start listening to this album. And that's what got me into this album, which got me deeper into the band and really just kind of, I don't know, propelled my, love and admiration for them. I mean, I've seen them probably like 6 or 7 times live now.
Oh, wow.
I got a hoodie, Black Keys hoodie. Like, man, there was a time. Here's the thing. There was a time. I don't know who my favorite band is right now, if you ask me, but there was a time, a couple year period where the Black Keys were my favorite band. That's the song that really kind of, it put the hook in me.
Okay.
That's right. So that's why I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
That's my favorite song. And the transition's fucking sweet. What's yours?
Yeah. Too Afraid to Love You.
Okay. Oh,
dude,
all right.
it's the
all
the
these
harpsichord,
sleepless nights, all these wasted days. Yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
So
right, okay, that's probably my 1B, but
yeah,
I think I'm on the T.
I scratched the last one. You are
did.
on the T right now, my dude.
All right. So here's the deal. I'm gonna make it a quick, clean cut. I'm gonna chop off the end. These Days, track number 15. It really slows down the album. And when you're at the end of a 15 track album that is very, very good, I'm just like, you know what, man? I think Never Give You Up is a great way to end the album, man. I could totally do that.
I have a hard time disagreeing with that. Yeah.
And also, I think I mentioned when I was talking about this song, they usually have at least one kind of slower song on their albums. I referenced the lengths and things ain't like they used to be. And I just think those songs are slower, and I just think they're better than this song. I just do.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that. What do you got, Graham?
Howlin' for You.
Ooh, man, I don't know if I'm going to give a WTFIS.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
I did not expect that. I really did not expect that.
It's just the most predictable it's totally predictable to me. And to put it after Tighten Up, yeah, I don't know, man.
I will say where I wouldn't pick that one, and I'm not going to give you the W, blah, 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 blah,
okay.
blah. But the da-da-da-da,
yeah, I don't like that.
Da-da-da-da. I feel like that's sort of a easy way out a little bit.
Absolutely. That's why I don't like it.
I will say, if we were going to go to overtime, I had a backup. Do you want to know my backup?
Yeah, I do.
Sinister Kid.
Oh, not mine at all.
No, I just...
If I had a backup, it'd be Tighten Up.
Oh.
And I know that's now, yeah, that's fair. I accept, but it just.
Yep. Yeah. Interesting, though, I will say, Grim, interesting that neither of us, the easy way out for both of us and for most people would be to do Black Mud. Because
if you do that, you're an asshole. Because but it's an awesome instrumental. So don't,
Yeah, it's a good song. But
here's the thing: if the absence of words constitutes your scratch for a given album, you may want to rethink why you listen to music. Maybe you should just listen to poetry. Because
sounds awful.
Well, it does, but I'm just saying,
was Tree Fingers your backup?
Words are
was
an
that your scratch?
part.
What was your scratch for Kid A? Was it Tree Fingers? I forget. Mine was Motion Picture.
Yeah, I think mine was too. I think we went to OT.
Probably did. I don't know what I did after that.
Yeah,
I think we just said
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we were that guy on that episode.
Just don't scratch Black Mud.
Don't do it,
that's
man.
a real shit.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
with that said,
thank you, everyone, for listening. We're going to try to wrap this up. Maybe we could keep it even under an hour. It's going to be really close. But let us know what track you would scratch below. Let us know what album is your favorite. Let us know what song is your favorite by The Black Keys, Alpha Brothers. What do you say, Graham? Time to go?
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tims. Copyright 2021, The Dude and Grim Show.